He said, no, I'm going to set you up to do something impossible. And it's going to shock the world what I'm going to have you to do. I'm like, wow. And he said, what you're going to do when man look at it, it's going to be impossible. He said, you're going to face a lot of adversity, but no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. And God said, I got you all the way. Now, he didn't give me great details and tell me I'm going to do this and do all that, because God is a God of grace, mercy, joy, peace, and all. Fast forward, I begin to understand, yes, we have been taken away from God. The body, the church, and the city of Detroit has actually been stolen from them. Well, good blessed evening, everybody. How you doing? Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, my brother, for that warm introduction, those kind words. And first and foremost, let's just have a moment of prayer before we start this thing. Father God, we thank you for all that you have done, all that you are doing, all that you will do. In the matchless name of your Son, Yahshua, sweet Emmanuel, we say thank you, God, for all that you have done. Thank you for bringing this brother to me, allowing me to share the words and that you want those to hear. We thank you for the moment. We thank you for the hour. Amen and amen and amen.
Amen.
Yes, my brother, where you want to get started at? Because there's so much to cover.
Man, I want to get started on you are Charles Brooks Jr. Tell me a little bit about, because I read the book and you talk about grandmother and her prayers on your life. Tell me a little bit about who Charles is and your parents and your upbringing.
Well, you know, I was born in the city of Detroit, raised here in the city of Detroit as well, and went to Detroit public school systems, navigated the streets, Eastside and Westside, and I've been a contractor for a number of years here. Most things that I've done are unpublished, but a majority of the stuff that we do in the community for the rebuilding of Detroit, most don't understand. Like you said, a lot of people see the castle, and that's my introduction to a lot of people, but it's way bigger than my home. I've actually worked on rebuilding a lot of communities as my promise to God, and I've been fulfilling that lately, and it's really taken the efforts of faith, grace and mercy, that we're able to carry such a task out.
So you raised in Detroit. What was your upbringing like?
My upbringing was it was pretty good. I mean, the struggle was real. I was raised by my mother, and portions with my stepfather there or whatnot. But for the most part, my mother raised me, and then I moved on later in life, and then actually went to live with my grandmother as well as my aunt. So down through the years, I've had multiple different households.
Okay. And so beyond the titles, because you are also a pastor, right?
And they call me pastor. They call me Chuck. Just don't call me late for dinner. They got a lot of the castle man.
Motivational speaker,
author, servant. But actually, speaking of servant, that is the biggest title that I would rather ever introduce myself as, because I'm actually a servant, and that's pretty much what I do here. I serve the Almighty, and I'm here to do God's will and God's will only.
Okay. And how would you define yourself with all these titles that everybody else give you? Just a servant. You say just a servant
just of the Lord. Just a servant. Okay. That's all I am. That's all I want to be. I just want to do His will.
What was the first seed that was planted that led to the vision at 4234 Lakewood?
I would say the first seed that was planted was actually a brick that was thrown at me. And when I say that with emphasis, because, and that's why the book is titled 4234 Lakewood, The Story Behind the Glory, before the foundation was laid, because what it does, it shows that after all that I've been through, but I still persevered, I still pressed on and continued even in spite of. I built the council and these communities through everything that you could ever imagine. And it was through the power of an almighty God and and faith. Um, and also the planting of those bricks, the bricks that they throw at you. Some people take and stack them on the shelf, but I took those same bricks and um, built a legacy. And I can say that much.
Well, and from what I read, bricks weren't the only thing that was thrown at you. You were shot as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, my son, who's my chief executive officer right now of operations, um, I was wounded in a carjacking in front of him and two of my children right here in the city of Detroit. And to make a long story short, I got hit in the main artery and I lay face down in the street for 32 minutes. And when the police got there, they put the tape up around my body and told my family that there was nothing that they could do because I was gone. And it was a wrap. The main artery is the one that carries the blood through the body. That's like a water hose. And it was a real trying time. The Lord really came in and brought me back to life, because from the time I got shot to the time I hit the operating table, it was an hour and 15 minutes. And that was with all of the blood pretty much gone out of my body.
Wow, wow. Okay, and you also dealt with some addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, the struggle was real, and I experienced with, like cocaine, alcohol, weed, and the cocaine was really, it was like a thrill. But, one day I was actually praying and getting high. Notice I said praying and getting high.
Right.
And I realized that I was smoking crack.
Right.
I'm just going to keep it real. And I said, if my mother knew that I was doing this, she would kill me dead. And immediately I asked the Lord to take that away from me, because I was doing something, because I was selling it and I'm smoking, part of my supply. And I asked the Lord just to take it away from me. And instantly he did. And I've never looked back on that. And then I had a strong addiction to alcohol. I drank for, about 34 years. And one day I asked the Lord to take that away from me, because I didn't want to do it no more. And to this day, I'm 12 years alcohol free. I haven't had a drink in 12 years. I haven't even had a glass of wine, not even a shot for communion. It's just, and that's what we have to understand, that when you ask God to come into your life and take something such as an addiction away from you, God will do it. And when he pulls that void out of you, what he actually ends up doing, that void that he pulled out of you, of that addiction that you had, he fills you with so much of his love, grace, mercy, joy, and everything.
Most definitely. They say that the depth of your struggle determines the height of your success. And for you, that definitely, because what you built over there, man, is more than a notion. It's not something that's why I'm kind of at odds about the feedback I've been getting from some Detroiters, and we'll get into that. How did we get here? I remember, so there was a chronicalized timeline on Facebook. I mean, on YouTube, on social media, where you started in 2009 or something like that, when you bought the house, and you were saying that wasn't correct.
Yeah, that was inaccurate. Um, One thing that I do want to do, so we can do a little house cleaning. Remember, before that, none of this was planned. We have been talking about doing this podcast for a number of months, and I got sick, and so we scheduled to come out, and we finally had our date today, and we knew what we were going to talk about and tap into. But as the events have changed in the last couple of days, that we have to include a portion of that in here.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to do a little house cleaning to share that with the listening audience. And when they did that timeline that they did, it was very not only was the Google timeline that they did, it was disrespectful. None of that information that was on there, it really wasn't accurate. They went to Google, and all of the captions and commentary that they put on there, they created that. They didn't consult me on that.
Yeah.
It was more or less a monetization tip. It was a money tip of
Yeah.
what they were doing. So instead of the content creator reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, look, I want to do a commentary on you," like most people do, especially that appreciate what I've done, so they can report accurately. They chose not to do that and created their own commentary, and it was very disrespectful with information on there that wasn't accurate. The timeline, some of it was like, if you only knew the reason why we didn't do any work in 2019, that was the time that I buried my dad, Charles Edward Brooks Sr. And it was hurtful to see that on there. And then the comments that came out of that with all of the overgrown grass, and then people say, "Oh, he must have fell off," and "Oh, looks like he ran out of money," and it was terrible. And then you would see another time, "Oh, looks like he's starting to build this." Oh, he decided to, and it was very disrespectful. So,
Yeah.
and he got a lot of views. I mean, so when he had like 200,000 views, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, you're kind of like disrespecting my character. Let me give you the correct information, but I want you to tag me in it, so people that got questions and want to know, at least I can accurately comment back to him." He never wanted to tag me in it because he's under the impression that if he tagged me in it, I'm going to monetize off of him. I'm like, no, that's not what that's about. So within a couple of days, it had hit over 1 million on many platforms. Just, it was about 1 million here, 1 million there. And after I, had to send him a nice little email, like, "I need you to take that down, because not only do you not want to tag me in it, you're not reporting accurate information." And he went ahead and took it down, and he was very offended by it.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people look at that stuff as it's just social media, but you're talking about somebody else, and it's a lot of stuff that went into that, a lot of pain and everything. So I understand.
And keep in mind that the viral reels, I go viral all the time. This latest, not the one that in the last couple of days, but in the last 3 weeks, the viral videos, the shares and stuff, they tell me they have reached the 1 billion mark. This is all over the place. I mean, because one guy will create the reel, and then
Yeah.
people just keep re-editing it and sharing it, and I mean, it's blowing up. It's blowing up. And a lot of people have been tapping in because they got it on Instagram, TikTok. They got that thread going on,
Yeah.
Facebook. I mean, so it's all over the place because, um, people are really recognizing what I've really been doing. And a lot of people appreciate it. And I know that you said something earlier in the conversation. Yeah, it's a lot of negative feedback,
Yeah.
and it's so unfortunate that the negative feedback, because people think I'm doing this for clout. I don't have to do this for clout. I got a huge following on social media. I've been branded. I've been branded for over 20 years,
Yeah.
because of
I
because
told somebody that today that they said it's just for clout. Well, you already went viral already, so you know. And
I've
what?
been viral. I've
Yeah.
been viral before they started talking about what viral was.
Right.
you
Exactly.
know,
Exactly. So, quick question: most people wouldn't think about building a castle in the hood. What was your mindset when you first set out to do it, and what does it symbolize to you?
that's an understatement, my brother, because you got an early step in the game. You got the book,
Yeah.
and that book chronicles the time frame before I built the foundation, and that's why it's so. And it's not like I want to force you to read the book and tell you, but man, I want to take that book sometime and knock people upside the head, because it's so much in there. And if you really read it, you would understand, man, this is God that did this.
Yeah.
And I gave you the outline in the book. This was long before we poured the first shot of concrete.
Yeah.
And the outline is there. So keep in mind the pictures that you see on there. We do have current pictures of the castle, but this is before that picture that's on the front of the book. Before you see this picture right here, we're talking barren land before this was ever even a thought. So it was a process that it wasn't planned. See, I had a vision, and my vision didn't equate to what you're able to witness today. It's totally opposite.
So, when did you learn to build? You were going through addiction. You know,
Oh no, I started building when I was a kid. I started very young. I started, working around the house, doing the landscaping and doing little odd jobs around the house. And then as I began to love it, I would do, odd jobs up and down the street or whatever in the neighborhood because I really liked it. That's not a proper word. I really liked the construction and I just loved it. And I just, like I said, I started out when I was 7 years old.
well, but I mean, some of the stuff that you built, did you go to like organized learning for some of this stuff?
No, actually, I only went to masonry school. All of my other talents are God given talents. The building. I can build a house from the basement to the basement to the roof with no blueprints, with my eyes closed. And the only actual training that I've ever actually had was masonry, which is bricklaying. When I signed up for vocational school, my first choice was carpentry, but the carpentry class was full. So my next choice was masonry. So you are allowed to pick three things. And I said, well, I'm only going to pick two. It has to be either or. And my either or turned out to be masonry. And so I stuck with that and, ended up when I graduated from apprenticeship school, it was pretty much then I went through the course and it was a determination thing for me because when I graduated from apprenticeship school, out of my class, it was very few of us that had earned the right to get a job due to our performance during the course. So I was one at the top of the list to get a job, and they gave me a job which had nice wages. And I'll never forget the day when I graduated. My instructor gave me my card. You get your work card with your hours on it and where you're going to go work at. And I told him, I said, thank you, but I got my own operation. He said, why did you do it? I say, I went through this course because my instructor at my former school told me that I would never be nothing.
Wow.
And so imagine being spat in your face every day, being told that you'll never be nothing. And I just wanted to make sure that I was confident that I would beat the odds totally against what he said. So I went through the course to say, yes, I'm going to do this.
Okay. Yeah, that's determination, man. That's determination. I do some concrete work myself, and in masonry, they normally don't teach you rough cement, or you must have went to a different type of course.
Well, you got the masonry is bricklaying, and then the cement finishes is the concrete portion of it.
Okay, so you did get cement finishing.
Well, cement finishing, that's something that I learned on the job. The old man,
Yeah, I figured that. Right.
I worked up under, I had a lot of old school cats, and they taught me well.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest, I mean, these guys had 50 years experience, and sometimes we be on the job, we have 250, 300 years of experience. And I learned from the best. I learned the concrete trade from the best.
Okay, yeah, because I have one of those carports over my driveway that I have in Detroit, and nobody could tell me why I was shifting. And I reached out to you. I rolled by there and I saw how you built those pillars over to cross to the other house. And I said, okay, this is the guy that I need to talk to. I never really got to talk to you about that either. So I'll discuss that with you.
Okay.
We got some other fish to fry, man. I want to ask you a couple more questions before we get into what's really going on today.
Absolutely.
So I'm under the impression that the castle is to exalt God and what he's done in your life in some type of way.
Yes.
Am I correct with that?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I didn't plan it. I did not plan it. If you look in in portions of the book, as you see, I was wading my way through the path that God was taking me through. I knew, not to give away too much in the book, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt what God was doing. But what you see, even on the front cover of the book, it does not even equate to what I had planned. See, my vision, the vision that I had was like this.
Yeah.
But as I began to trust in God and he began to lead me, it started to grow like this. And I mean, it became immeasurable that I couldn't measure it with a stick what he was doing, and it's something to, they say it's something to write about, But there's a part two to that. When you're able to build it and write about it, you know it's God, and it turned out just like the perfect the perfect piece of pie.
Yeah, it did, man. Most definitely. You being talked about all around the country, man. But before this, um, you had a situation where after the shooting, you were bedridden, and you said that the neighbors had the whole community helping you, nursing you back to health while you were
Yes.
separated from your wife. And I remember reading the book. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about that part of your life.
Well, when I came home from the hospital, by me, like I said, by the shooting being so tragic, I couldn't walk. I could barely talk, and I had several operations in the hospital. And when they didn't expect me to make it, because I stayed 12 days in the hospital, 5 of those days were spent in grave condition because they didn't expect me to make it, due to all of the loss of the blood in my body. And, our bodies hold, they tell me 10 to 12 quarts of blood. Don't quote me on that, but they ordered 11 and 3/4 and gave me almost all of it. Actually, I think it was just a shot left.
Wow.
And I didn't find that out until years later after I, got better, because I wanted to know what actually happened to me. So when I found and got my medical records and read, I'm like, oh wow, so it was really a process to be in the hospital. So before I go to my exit from the hospital to get discharged, let me share with you how this vision to rebuild Detroit came about. And when I come out of the coma, actually when I passed away, I was reciting the 23rd Psalm as they were pronouncing me in the EMS. So I passed away like 3 times.
Wow.
And I'll never forget the last time I was in the EMS and they said, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. And I said, no, he's not. And I clenched my fist. And the little blood that was left in my body, I could feel it pour from what it felt like my eyes and my ears when I clenched my fist. And I started reciting the 23rd Psalm. And when I woke up 2 days later, it was the finishing of the 23rd Psalm. And I was actually on life support with a tube down my throat and 13 other tubes in my body. And it shocked the doctors and everyone in the room because like I'm talking to you right now, just as normal. And I talked and prayed beyond the obstruction of the tube down my throat. And when I woke up and I was coming out of the coma, I finished reciting the 23rd Psalm. And then shortly sometime there later, because I was in the hospital as a John Doe. They had me in the hospital as a John Doe due to the severity of the crime. And what ended up happening was I'm laying on my bed and I've been active all my life. So imagine waking up and you can't move. And I couldn't move. And I'm like, what's going on? And at the time, my family wasn't in there because, like I said, I was in protective custody. So no one was in there with me. But, well, someone was in there with me, and it was God. And we had a conversation. And he said, hey, I want you to do something for me. I'm like, okay, what is that? And he says, I want you to go. I want you to do a favor. I got 3 things I want you to do. He said, I want you to go get my children, the city of Detroit, and I want you to go get my church. They've all been stolen from me, and I want you to bring them back to me. And I'm like, no, you don't want me, and I debated with God right there on my deathbed. I said, no, I'm a big whoremonger because I actually stepped down from the pulpit right before I got shot. I actually stepped down from the pulpit right before I got shot because I thought that I was not worthy to do God's will because I was the biggest whoremonger in town. And I was preaching, getting engagements, and I also had a radio broadcast and, very popular, similar to what I am now, but not to this magnitude. But I felt that I couldn't serve God in the capacity it was called for.
Right.
And I just asked him to remove me from the pulpit and I stepped down. And then God, he shared something. He said, what you did, it was like iconic because you did something, you stepped down and you didn't get caught up in a scandal. You didn't get caught. And I said, God, what I've been doing. And he said, I know because I see you.
Yeah.
You can't keep no secret from God. So when he asked me to do the 3 things, go get his children, the city of Detroit, his children, and the church. And so I debated with him because I'm like, no, you don't want to use me, God. You don't want this old wretched soul. And I debated with him heavily. He said, no, you don't understand. I know what you did. And so I have you. And so this is where, and I'm so glad that you read my book, my brother, because I'm about to kind of shake, rattle, and roll some things if I can. When I told God, I say, you don't want me. He said, yes. And this is when God told me that the blood that's running through your veins is not the blood from man, it's the blood from my son that dripped on Calvary. Remember, I didn't know how severe my injuries were because no one was there to share with me what had went on. And I didn't find out 2 years later about how much blood transfusion I had went through. And God said, I'm going to set you up to do something. And he said, you're the only person that I can entrust to do this. And I said, oh, you could choose any bishop, any entertainer. You got everybody. You don't want me. He said, no, I'm going to set you up to do something impossible. And it's going to shock the world what I'm going to have you to do. I'm like, wow. And he said, what you're going to do when man look at it, it's going to be impossible. He said, you're going to face a lot of adversity, but no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. And God said, I got you all the way. Now, he didn't give me great details and tell me I'm going to do this and do all that because God is a God of grace, mercy, joy, peace, and all. And what he did was he just kind of like gave me bits and pieces along the way. And I had to be willing and obedient to follow the path that he was taking me on. So, when he said, go get my children, the city of Detroit, and my church, I'm like, okay. He said they've been stolen from me. And fast forward, I begin to understand, yes, we have been taken away from God. The body, the church, and the city of Detroit has actually been stolen from them. Because we all belong to God. Even the city of Detroit is held in what was formerly, it was held in the hallows of God's hands. But now the enemy has control of Detroit. And God is not pleased. And he began to share with me, and I mean, it's a heck of a thing to know. Well, I'm going to say a heavens of a thing. Let me rephrase that. When you're on assignment from God and you really don't know what you're doing, because it's like going through a maze. But he knows all of the maze that he's supposed to be going through because I've never treaded those waters. But God knew everything to take me through that maze where there were trial, tribulation, bumps in the road, roadblocks. I mean, he took me through it. But remember, he told me he had my back. And so I told God right there on my deathbed, I said, well, God, if you want me to do that for you, I'm in. But can you do something for me? I said, I want to preach. I want to walk. And I want to pour concrete again. He said, it's a deal. And me and God kind of like, if we, and I've got add a little story to, we kind of like fist bump, high five, like, okay, we got a deal. Yeah. And from that moment forward, I came home from the hospital in a wheelchair. I weighed less than 150 pounds. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't walk at all. And I couldn't even use the bathroom on my own. They had to take care of me. But by me being separated from my wife, and it was so close to school, for the children to go back to school, what ended up happening is that everybody just pitched in to take care of their Charlie because I didn't realize how much I meant to people. Everybody used to always tell me they love me, but this is the time of my life that I found out how much people really love me because the neighbors pitched in to help with me. So somebody brought the chicken, somebody brought the mashed potatoes, somebody brought the bread, somebody brought the Kool-Aid, and they even bought my apple pie. They couldn't forget my apple pie, So they pitched in to take care of me, and it was an effort, and they took care of me just like I was a baby, And I'm so grateful and thankful for everyone that did that.
Now they saying that the neighbors, I heard what the guy was saying about in your live, where the neighbors were the ones who called on you and were complaining about your area over there on Chalmers. These must be some new neighbors because these ain't the neighbors that was nursing you back
then.
Yeah,
there's definitely some new neighbors because I believe, like I said, the people that appreciate what I've done Man, ain't nothing to worry about on Chalmers because there's so much other stuff around there to worry about. I think it was all political. Um, for someone to call on something like that with so much going on in the neighborhood, I said if that's their truth, then we're gonna go ahead and let them roll with that.
Yeah, I was at odds on that. I'm like, how many houses you had to pass to get to his to complain about his?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then you already have a track record of getting things done. Why are they so pressed? It's got to be more to it.
Oh, it's definitely more to it, and I'm so Eric. That's why I got so much respect for you, because of what you stand for and the relationship that you and I have. I mean, me and you just ain't Facebook buddies. I mean, we're
Yeah,
brothers, we're
yeah,
friends, we connect.
for sure.
And there's two sides to every story, and there's a truth. I have an excellent track record in the city of Detroit, not only of rebuilding communities, I have an excellent reputation in the city of Detroit with my company, um, a unique construction company, not just in Detroit, but as Michigan, because we serve the whole Michigan area. But they know my track record. They know that how we work, and I'm not going to leave one stone unturned. And I'm not a blight guy. I'm not a slumlord, and they know my reputation.
Yeah,
So to come at me the way that they did, man, I tell you, man, this has been it's been a heck of a 2 days, and a lot of people looked at the videos and talking about I was emotional and I was so upset. Well, the only thing I would like to ask those listeners, put yourself in my shoes and let a man walk up to you and take something that you worked so hard to build.
yeah,
And all I've done in the city, I've done thousands of homes in the city of Detroit, well, state of Michigan rather. And I'm an expert. I do it with my eyes closed, and I'm recognized all. You've seen the publications. I mean,
yeah.
I've been on CNN, CBS, Michigan Chronicle, Dateline Detroit. I've been in several different magazines, newspaper articles, Grosse Point News article, Fox 2 News, CBS, Channel 7, Channel 4. I've been on all of them, and they've said nothing but great things about what I've done around the city. So when they came at me, this was kind of, it was unorthodox, and you could tell that it was pointed at something else.
Yeah, and what do you think that is? You said something first. You said Mike Duggan, then you said Land Bank, and this guy he was from somewhere else.
Well, the guy that was doing the interview, he's the chief of staff for the mayor. That's going to be Mr. Solomon. And the guy, you talking about the guy that had the suit on?
Yeah, the guy with the suit.
Yeah, that's the chief of staff for the mayor. And the reason we added the mayor into my complaining is because the mayor's name is on the lawsuit. It says Mayor Mike Duggan, mayor, and the Detroit Land Bank. So that's why he was actually, I brought him up in a conversation. Other than that, and for the record, I don't have nothing against the mayor. I've never met him a day in my life. I don't know anything pretty much about him to say anything bad or per se to say anything good about him. All I know is he's the mayor. So I'm not going to say, oh, he's the greatest mayor that we ever had, but I'm not going to say he's the worst mayor we ever had. I don't have a relationship with him to know anything about him because I've never met him, nor do I direct a bad conversation toward him.
Right. And the guy, so he was saying that they wanted a timeline from you. Let me ask you this. Did you buy the land from the land bank?
Absolutely not. I've never bought a property from the Detroit Land Bank. This is a property that I bought from the city of Detroit. I think I bought that property back in 2014. I bought that from the city of Detroit Planning and Development Department. And I never bought anything from the Detroit Land Bank. So, I don't even know why. But this is not my first time in dealing with the land bank. So people that were getting on here talking about, oh, they didn't take your house. I've been through the process before. I know how the Detroit Land Bank operates. I've been down this road before because I had to give up a whole block for them, and it's been about 2 years ago.
Wow.
But people have their own truth, and that's why I say social media is so detrimental. It's a dangerous place to be because everybody has their own truth. They see me shedding tears. I'm crying. Man, this is my life. This is my family.
Yeah.
And how would you feel if someone walked up to you and you look up and you don't work hard for it, you get a lawsuit in the mail and they taking your home, they're saying blight.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the home is being remodeled.
Yeah. And you got to think about if they do, let's say they do take it and sell it to somebody else, and now your legacy, because I see what you're doing over there. You want all that space for your family and to build out. Now, what would actually, you have your fence going across that house, right?
I have the whole estate. My estate stretches 2 city blocks, and so
Right.
it's all gated and protected all the way around. So it'll be over my dead body before they take that property. And I'm just going to keep it real. I'm not going to sit here. I don't even want to anticipate what could happen, because I couldn't even imagine that being in someone else's hand in the middle of my estate.
Yeah, that's like that house that was the famous house that was next to Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't sell. And
Did they sell
what happened
that yet?
to it? No, they burned it down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Finally. Wow.
Yeah. So somebody set it on fire and it literally burned down.
Because he wanted what, $3 million for it, right?
Yeah. They offered him somewhere, I think 1 point something million, and
they were about a meal ticket short, huh?
Yeah. So I can't imagine you getting this far without your faith, and God. And I'm just trying to see. We were talking about your marriage at that time. I was in a situation where remember, I don't know if you remember.
We was at Home Depot and you talked about it right in the plumbing aisle.
Yes, because in the book, and I don't really want to give that away.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. They got to buy, baby. Don't give it away. Talk around it, Eric. Talk around it.
Well, it was amazing because I felt like I was in this story.
Yeah.
And when I saw you at Home Depot, I said, okay, so this is the way everything turned out. And mine I wasn't so lucky. It wasn't in God's plan or however that worked out.
Wait a minute, Eric. I got to correct you. You're never lucky. Luck is when you miss heaven and go to hell. Lucky is not a good word.
Okay.
Luck is when you miss heaven and go to hell. You're blessed.
Blessed. Most definitely. I retract that. After all that you've been through, this interview was supposed to be about your property, because you had just went viral. I think what's his name? Reginald. I've been seeing him a lot.
Roderick.
Yeah, I've been seeing him a lot. He did that first interview, and I was looking forward to this and saying, look, okay, I'm gonna have an interview. We're gonna talk about this, and then we get the news that the city is taking your property, man. I know this has been a heaven of a couple days.
Yeah, it's been a heaven of a couple days. So let me address that about taking the property. So, because I know they're going to be in the chat and talking about this, and even on camera and talking to the guy in the suit, who is the Mr. Solomon. And this is the first time I've ever met Mr. Solomon, so I have nothing against him. But the tactics that he used, and they're trying to get the listening audience and the people to believe that, no, we didn't take his property. We're trying to work with him, and we just want to know when he's going to get finished. Well, here's the principle of the matter. If you wanted to know when I would have got finished, you could have just picked up the phone and called me and say, hey, Chuck, when are you going to be finished? We're getting some complaints. We just want to know when you're going to get finished. And the killing part about it, the Detroit Land Bank, I'm already dealing with them on a couple of other properties, and they're well aware that I've been sick since November. Yeah. And that's why we couldn't hold the podcast before because I was under the weather. Yeah. And I've been really sick, and I'm just not getting back in the swing of things. So if I did have a blight issue, and I'll admit, they didn't lie and say there is some blight over there. I'm gonna go ahead and roll with it. They call it blight, but it's actually the construction concrete and the bricks and the piles of dirt from a major project that I did over there. So that's like our storage site over there where we put the stuff there as we need it and as we dissect and tear things apart. Because you got to remember, if they look at 4219, I've completely overhauled that whole house. I stripped every brick off of there. We replaced a lot of rotted wood, the windows. And so when you do a job of that magnitude, it creates a lot of concrete, bricks, and dirt. And then with me doing an excavation over on Lakewood and doing that, so I just transfer everything over there because it's out of the way, and that's where we go. But the city's response to this is, no, we didn't take his house. We didn't take a property. So I'm going to set the record straight because I've been down this road before with the Detroit Land Bank, and they've taken several people's property without due process. I never went to court. So if you look at the video, when you see the guy serve me at the gate, we had already got the first 2 documents from them. One's regular mail, the other one's certified mail. And you heard the server say in the when he came, "Oh, we already been to court a few times."
Yeah.
And I never been. How can you take someone to court, sue them, and win? And I never had a right to go there and represent myself. And in the documents, it clearly states that I cannot. Okay, so Eric, let's say that you like 4219 Chalmers and you wanted to buy it.
Right.
You can't buy it from Charles E. Brooks Jr. You have to talk to the land bank, because that's what they have in the ex parte order and the list pendings. They have placed a lien on my property. I cannot get a mortgage loan. I can't get a construction loan. I can't get no kind of loan on it. I can't transfer title. And they have a lien on there. And so what that means is so when I say they took my control. Exactly. I don't have control over my property any longer. It clearly says on there, and they're making you seem like, no, we're working with them. They're not working with me. This is more than what they're making it seem to be. And so for the record, you've looked at all of it, and I've seen them, but I can't respond. Like I said, this thing has been shared over 1 billion times combined with all of my other viral stuff, and with hundreds of thousands and even millions of comments. Man, I can't sit in front of that computer and type and respond to every comment. So I just let them go on by and do what they're going to do. But for the record, I have no control over 4219 Chalmers. They pretty much went to court already without me being there. And the judge is listed, it's the ex parte order on there, and the list pendings that they have attached to the property, which is a lien. So if I want to get a mortgage, the mortgage company is not going to loan to you on the property because it has a lien on there, an active lien.
So are they saying that they served you for the property?
No, they don't even have to serve. This is their process. I've been through it before, and other people this is their practice. No, they're not saying, "Oh, we served him before." No, I got served after they went to court.
Well, in any situation, though, you have to make it known that there's an issue.
I never knew.
With some type of document.
I never knew. I didn't get a warning shot. I didn't get a blight ticket. I didn't get a phone call or nothing. The only thing we got it in the mail. I came in the door. The mail was sitting on the sofa table, and I seen it out of the corner of my eye, the yellow envelope. And I went to sit down at the dining room table. On my way, I'm thinking, what is that envelope? And I know what the yellow envelope means, because that's a yellow envelope in the land bank. And I'm like, okay, which property is that from? Because I got a bunch of them. Yeah. And I couldn't even get down and sit down at the dining room table. And my wife said, Charlie brought the mail in, and she came in and handed me the letter. And I opened it up, the envelope, and lo and behold, it was for the 4219 Chalmers.
You said something about they took the homestead off.
Oh no, that's Lakewood. See, that's another issue. That's not on 4219 Chalmers. That's on Lakewood. That's some more hanky panky that went on. That's with the castle itself. At which I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not active. So if you want to talk about that, I could dive into that. This is your program, because the listeners have been misinformed about a lot of stuff about this. They've even said that I said that they took the castle. If you go back and look at that original blast that they did, it said they done took my damn house.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And so I meant what I said.
I actually promoted it as the castle just for the aesthetics of it. I didn't know whether that's what it was for sure. So I mean, they could blame me for that, but you never said
everybody uses the castle. That's like that's like asking Alexa where the castle is at. Everybody uses the castle, and they use it for the backdrop and everything, because it's going to draw attention. If I ask you, Eric, where's that castle at in Detroit? It's on Lakewood. It ain't on Woodward.
Yeah.
And
see, if they get this house, if they're successful, God forbid, that is taking the castle. You know what I'm saying? It's possible.
Okay,
It's the
are you
equivalent.
prepared to talk about that? About the castle?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain to you guys, and I hope that I'm not able to see the chats, but I don't have no reason. I have nothing to gain. I'm not looking for followers. I got a huge following on social media. I'm not monetizing. I don't get paid. Matter of fact, I got some money in my Facebook account from all of the different stuff that I do. I just ain't went in there and set it up because they keep saying come and set it up, but I ain't money hungry. I just ain't did it, you know. But a lot of people do this monetizing and following and doing all of this stuff and sharing these reels and videos so they can monetize. Look here, baby, I ain't trying to get them nickels and dimes that's falling from the table. I'm trying to grab the bigger pieces of fruit, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm want to get this right. So the listeners that are listening to listening to this video, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on here, they've been misinformed. So again, for the record, I have no control over 4219 Chalmers. Not to keep repeating it, but so that people to go and share. Even the city of Detroit has gotten so dirty, they went and made what screenshots and say, no, he's been misinforming you guys. He should have cleaned up this, and this is about that. It ain't about Lakewood. It's not about Lakewood. Well, I'm going to honestly say what is going on with Lakewood has nothing to do with the land bank. It has to do with something else, and I'll provide this to you. There's several things going on with Lakewood that we were dealing with before this thing with 4219 Chalmers came about. One of them being that they, someone from the city came on social media and said that on one of the reels that one of the guys had been sharing, you know, because like I said, all my stuff go viral. And he said, well, where's my phone at? Oh, I ain't got my phone, but my son took my phone. But I'll make sure you have it so you can share with the listening audience that I have passed away, and that if my family does not come forward soon, they're going to be tearing the castle down.